Welcome to another episode of This Woman Works. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, I brought in someone that definitely has a flair for fashion, definitely gets people dressed to impress. I named the episode Dressed to Impress, by the way. But
Yeah.
I wanted to bring on this particular person because I've been noticing the work that she's been doing, and she's everywhere. Especially if you're in Nashville, you know exactly who this person is. That would be Kimberly Adams. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And I love that montage, by the way. That was great.
Thanks. I had to think of black women that I love and that I love watching either their work or them or just, I just had to put all that information or powerful black women. That's why I put all those women in that montage. I just was sitting there thinking about, okay, who do I need to put? Now I know people will tell me I should have put Oprah in there, but hey, this is what I was feeling at the time.
You got to go where the spirit leads you, and there's a lot of other people. And I love Lady O, but there's a lot of other people too that deserve some notoriety. So that was great.
Cool. Thank you. Now, for those that don't know, Miss Kimberly Adams is the owner of Slim Pickens Boutique.
Yes.
She does do a lot of things, and we're going to get into that.
Okay.
Talking about her journey from the beginning all the way to now. But before we get into that, we also do the Black Girl Magic Moment every single episode where I recognize a Black woman or a moment that involved a Black woman in history. In this episode, starting Women's History Month with someone that I know in Nashville, fellow Nashville native, Averianna, the personality. Yes, she is a Nashville native just like me. Of course, first came across her on 101 The Beat. Listening, I was like, man, she has got a lot of energy.
She is
I
very
wish I had
special.
some of it.
Yes. Yes. She's amazing. She's amazing. One of my favorite people. Absolutely.
Right. And she does radio. She does hosting gigs, does shows, gives back to the neighborhood. I mean, she does mixtapes with Nashville artists.
Mixtapes, you
I'm like,
cannot forget the mixtapes. I mean, she is literally everywhere. And you know what I love so much about her is that she is not afraid to put Nashville on her back. Everywhere she is, she's representing Nashville. She's raising awareness to the culture in Nashville. So many people think that we're limited to just country music, and there's so much happening outside of that. And to be young, I mean, she's young. There's a lot of other things that she could be doing. She could move to other markets, but she just chose to put her feet and ground it here in Nashville, which I love. I appreciate that about her.
definitely. I just wanted to take time to kind of give her flowers and all the things that she's doing. And like you said, putting Nashville on her back. Yes, she definitely does. Every time she steps out, you're going to know she is from the 615 for
That's
sure.
right.
So, definitely, wanted to give her flowers in the Black Girl Magic Moment.
Love her.
But
And she's also one of my customers, my
oh,
clients too. I've been working with her for a few years as a styling customer, and she's more like family than a customer at this point. She is my family, and I love her dearly. So I'm so proud of you, girl.
yes, definitely had to mention that. I was going to mention that. You got me first. You
Oh,
got
I'm
me
sorry.
first.
I'm
It's
still in
all
the
good.
thunder. You see.
Oh,
Don't give me a
no.
mic.
No, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, definitely was going to mention that she's definitely one of your clients and more like family, like you mentioned. But of course, speaking of we want to kind of transition to
Okay.
you. Of course, we've got to find out, of course, the journey, the path that you took to get to where you are currently. But that
Yeah.
doesn't just happen overnight. That happens
It's
from, growing up as well, which is why we're going to talk about you growing up. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Gary, Indiana. So if you are
Ah,
familiar with the
Jackson's.
Jacksons, that's the home of MJ and the Jackson family as well. Most people nowadays know Freddie Gibbs. So when I say Gary, they say Freddie Gibbs. I say Michael Jackson. Younger people say Freddie Gibbs. But born and raised in Gary, Indiana. My mom worked at a sewing factory, so it was just natural that I think that I had a knack for fashion. She was always very stylish and would get me, custom dresses made, and I was always around seamstress. Most of my aunties sewed quilts and dresses and all of those things. So it was always there. I would say. And I've always just been a very, very much an individual, like I always wanted to have that different flair some kind of way. If it was an extra bow, if it was, writing on my shoes, I mean, it was going to be something. I'm sure it drove my parents absolutely insane. So between, the clothing, and then when I got into my teenage years, I did hair. I was putting on fashion show productions. So I was just a very, active and unique kid in a lot of ways.
Okay, all right. You sound like somebody I know. I'll tell you about it later. But I've got to ask. Of course, you mentioned Gary, Indiana. I mean, I think
Mhm.
Jesse Powell grew up there as well. I believe.
Jesse Powell and his sisters, they're from
Yep.
Gary, Indiana, recording artists. So yeah,
Hmm.
there's a couple of us. Yeah.
I couldn't forget Jesse Powell because I mean the song you cannot forget that song
That's a
ever.
classic. That's a wedding classic. But you can put it on today, and I'm a tootsie roll all around here. It's a good song. Rest in peace, Jesse Powell.
Yeah, definitely got to ask. Just Gary, Indiana. You hear different people describe Gary, Indiana. What was it like growing up there?
It's funny because when I grew up there, it was considered the murder capital, right? So, we're
Hmm.
talking, I'm gonna date myself, we're talking 80s and 90s, right? But I never really felt afraid. I didn't, I felt like a lot of love. It was fun. We would go to the skating rink, and I remember my cousins like Ariana and Shavonda, shout out to them. They now live here in Nashville. We would, plan our dance routines, and we would have our outfits together. My cousin Ebony was like the lead. She always was kind of the strongest dancer, so she would help kind of get our routine together. um and I just remember it being very joyous. I remember it being very cultural. Everybody was black. The teachers were black. The principal was black. The doctors were black. It's kind of like how people talk about like DC being chocolate city and that type of thing. I was very much so immersed in like our people, our culture. And so for as much as there was like a lot of negativity happening with drugs and violence, there were also a lot of positive figures, I feel, in the community as well. And I remember like being young, and my cousin was in ROTC, and the commander of ROTC, Sergeant Robinson. I was sitting on the sideline. I'm just waiting so we can go home from on. We missed the bus, and he
Hmm.
he got me up, and this is really where I started that leadership. When I realized I was a leader, he got me up and he was like, "Well, you get up and practice with them." And a couple weeks later, I'm teaching them how to do the drills or whatever. And he kind of forced me into a leadership position and making me the commander of the drill team and all of those things. But what he was really showing me was that I was kind of set apart in a lot of ways. And while I was sitting on the sidelines just trying to chill and kind of be out of the way, he showed me in that moment, and it took me years to realize it, that like this is not where you're supposed to be. This your place is in the front, and it's okay, and it's okay for you to be you and unique and be a leader. So it was people like that around Mr. Lott. It was another one of my teachers who was like, "You gonna learn about African culture," and he had us in there learning dances from traditional Africa and all of that stuff. And so it was just a very cool and unique environment to be in.
Okay, all right. So, you said your mom was a seamstress growing up, but oftentimes we see people doing different things, and we be like, I don't want to do that. I want to go this way. So I'm thinking
Mhm.
maybe for you, you may have had something different you wanted to be growing
Yeah.
up. So, what was the first thing you wanted to be that you you thought about like, okay, I want to be that when I grow up when you were a
As
kid?
you, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So I
Oh,
would draw and I would make like little stick man outfits and paper out of paper, and I would color and cut it out and stick it onto the paper, and I would, just redesign, my mama's shoes. I was gluing tap pennies on the bottom because I wanted them to be tap shoes. Um, but but I wanted to be a fashion designer. But I'll tell you, I love the mind of a child because you don't know to be afraid of a thing. You don't believe that you can't do a thing. And it wasn't until I started to get a little bit older and I had to make a decision when I got to college. And I was like, well, I want to do what's practical. I don't want to be like a struggling artist. So I'm going to go to school and I'll just major in like social work because I knew I had like a connectivity to people, and folks were kind of drawn to me in that way. They would call me for advice and that kind of thing, even as a young person. So I initially was going to major in social work, and I remember sitting in the class at Ball State University, and they were talking about how much money I was going to make, and I said, "Oh, I ain't gonna be able to do this." And they said to make even more money, you were going to need a master's degree, which I barely made it to college. So I definitely didn't want to go longer than I needed to. And so I was like, there's just no way I'm not going to do this. And so I took a personality test. It was like a class that you could take, and it kind of helped you discover what your major should be. So I took that, and it said fashion designer. So I changed my major to fashion design and retail merchandising.
Huh. Okay.
Hmm.
Wow. Maybe I should have took one
Yeah.
when I was in college because, I got a marketing degree, but I don't even think I've used that marketing degree,
Hmm.
in a corporate world ever. So, hey, it is what it
Hmm.
is. But we're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about your career and go into, give everybody kind of what you do. Since
Hmm.
if they're not aware, they're gonna know now. Well, we're gonna find that out.
Where you want me to
After
start? How much time we got?
All right, we're gonna find that out after the commercial break. We'll be right back on This One Works.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off all these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, now I know we're back on. We're back on This One Works with your host Mike Patton, and I know maybe you're a little confused. Why do I have an EBO beard commercial on the show talking to Black women? Well, let me get into that and answer that question. Let's see. The reason why is because, of course, we as Black men do not necessarily do two things or a few things. Let's go to the doctor. Let's take care of ourselves. We don't do those things very well. So what happens a lot of time? It's your sister, it's your significant other, it's your mama, your auntie, your cousin. Somebody come in there and say, "Hey, I need you to get that." So that's why EBO beard washing and everything, those beard products are on this show because Black women watch this show and they can maybe say, "Hey, you need some of that. Your beard is really rough right now." So that's why I've got that on this show. So all right, I'm
Encourage your man, girls.
all right, but getting into what we talked about before the commercial break, your career. So can you just tell everyone, give them a rundown of all the wonderful things that you do?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, I have Slim Pickings, which is an online boutique and a professional styling services. So We do photo shoots. We do costume design, wardrobe overhauls. Is kind of where I specialize in. I started out as a costume designer. A lot of people don't know that, so I did film and television and also theater costuming at first. Um, and then I took a break from that because it was challenging. It was a lot of work, and I wasn't making a lot of money. I mean, I was doing like 100 costumes, and I might make like $1,500 or something like that. It was really crazy, and this was back in like 2005 or whatever. And so I went into corporate America and started working as a project manager. I got a master's degree, which is funny because I always said I was never getting a master's degree. I got a master's degree and went into project management and have worked for a Fortune 500, now at a 100 firm. Um, but there was always this draw to get back into fashion. I was just really hesitant to do that because, to be honest, I was just afraid. Um, so before I took the step into fashion, I did what I like to do most, which was really event planning. And I started out doing event planning at Mount Zion, which is my church. Shout out to Bishop Walker. And I was over the volunteer event planning team. And we did, every event you could think of, from galas to church fits or whatever. We were there in the church just serving. And that really prepared me for a successful career in event planning, and that transition to doing happy hour events with the Social Society, which was one of the first event promotion companies that I founded. And then from there, we started doing TSU homecoming and brand activations. And then from there, it morphed into like spatial design. So I remember I got a call from a good friend of mine who at the time was working at Bacardi, and she said, "Well, I know you do like balloons and stuff, but can you maybe come to the West End and put some decorations up?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I remember getting on a call with the Westin, and they were, saying, "Well, we really want to redesign our whole rooftop. We don't really want just like an activation just for a weekend. If we're going to invest the money, we want it to be there." So I just started calling everyone, my business, who my now business partner, Paige Jack at the time, and I said, "Look, girl, these people want me to do this rooftop, and I need your help," because I didn't have the capacity, but I just thought I could do it. I'm like, I'm not going to tell them no. This is like $40,000 was the budget. Mm-hmm. And so we figured it out, and we did the aviary, which portions of it is still up. If you're ever at the Westin on the rooftop, we installed all of the faux grasses there. It looks like a concrete Roman, structure before we got up there. And shout out to Morgan Jackson, she also helped with that project. And so we did that. And then my friend said, "Kim, you really got to start back doing fashion." And she was a television producer at the Pickler and Ben show, which was being filmed here in Nashville. And she said, "I need somebody to come and help with these makeovers for women of color because their hair don't be right, they style not right. Like, girl, I need you to come." And so I remember that was my friend Leslie. I went and I said, "All right, well, we'll see." And the first thing I ever did was hair. I was making weaves for them. And then it just morphed into, being an assistant stylist when they would do the makeover shows. And then a couple of years after that, I opened up my first online boutique, and I had a business partner. That didn't really work out well, but it gave me the courage to keep going. And in the midst of that, I feel like God gave me slim pickings. I wanted to take a break, but something in my spirit wouldn't let me take the break. And this was right at the beginning of the pandemic. We didn't even know we were going into the pandemic. So my business partner and I had ended that business relationship in October. And then boom, we go into this pandemic. And I remember just thinking, like, I don't know what I'm going to, how I'm going to do, but I want to keep doing fashion stuff. I started building relationships with people, and I was praying about it. And I started writing down names and slim pickings. And I was like, K Adams. I had a whole bunch of things, and I started shopping the name around, and everybody just was like, "No, we like slim pickings." And so I rolled with that. And we're going on 4 years. So I've been in May. It'll be 4 years that I've had the store open, and it has been. Thank you. And it's been ups and downs, man. I would say, I would lie if I say it's been all easy. It hasn't. But it's been all worth it, and when I feel like I want to give up or I'm not sure or, whatever, something just magical happens and, I get a big opportunity, be it for costuming or be it for, for styling. And I just did a really big show in Vegas and was able to work with one of my all-time heroes, Stacey London, who is from What Not to Wear, very famous celebrity stylist. And, that was just like, man, God, I understand. I hear you. I'm not, and I'm going to keep moving forward. Um, but yeah, kind of the career path. But I am still a project manager. For those who don't know, I do work full time still, and that's something I want to just say. I know you haven't asked me about that, but what I would say for young people who are getting into it, because I think a lot of people now feel like I can't do both, right? Like I gotta focus solely on the craft and I can't do corporate. And I would just encourage you to create your stability in corporate America so you don't have to worry about the financial piece. And it will allow you to be equally as creative because you don't have the stress of wondering how you're going to eat or whatever. Now there might become a time where you have to make a hard line in a sand and walk away, but use that time while you're working to build your skill set, build your craft, build your relationships, and then when it's time to leap, you'll be leaping from a place of stability and not jumping off the deep end into sinking sand. And for some people, it works, So you got to know yourself, So anyway,
Yeah.
that's my soapbox moment.
Ah, you're all right. You're all right. Now, you said about jumping and drawing your line in the sand, things like that. I'm listening to Bill Bellamy's audiobook, and
Mm,
he actually could have been in the business world. He could have actually been making like $150,000 probably within by the time he's 25. But he drew his line in the sand and said,
yeah,
"Nah, I want to be a comedian," and went to it there. Which hey, it worked out for him. But it doesn't work out that way, like you said. It does not work out that way for everyone. You just have to know
yeah.
yourself and your limitations of what you want to do and what's calling your name, in
Yeah,
terms of
what
that.
you're called to
Mhm.
do. That's right. I mean, and I would even be curious to ask what he was doing on the side while he was building, right? Was he working as a
He
barista? Was he, what did he say?
he was yeah, he actually was he was still doing shows. He was doing comedian
Okay.
shows. He was doing that since he was in college
Wow.
and everything. He had opened up for Regina Bell and at one point because Regina Bell actually went to Rutgers like he did, but just was like 3 years ahead of
Oh,
him. So he actually would open up for her in shows and then of course he's building a name for himself while he was working his business job. So he had to make
But
that
you said
decision and that's what happened.
relationships too, though. That's so good.
Hmm.
So he was building relationship, and I love that I went to Ball State, and some of the greatest relationships that I have professionally and just otherwise are from people that I went to undergrad with. And I encourage people sometimes to go. It's this whole thing about like college ain't for everybody. And maybe it's not for everybody, but it might be for you, because you don't know. Like, for example, my friend from college is how I got the first show on television at Pickler and Ben.
Hmm.
That's how I got that job,
Okay.
because she remembered me from Ball State doing fashion
Hmm.
shows and doing hair. You see,
Okay.
so
Hmm.
I think we have to be more strategic,
Hmm.
and really think about when we're mapping. And it's hard when you're young because you want to move based off emotion. And I'm been emotional about some things, but um, I also have always wanted to make some damn money. So when it was, I always been a hustler, number one. And so when it
Hmm.
was time to grind and get some money, I'm gonna go get the money. I'm still that way. I'm gonna
Hmm.
go get that money.
Hmm.
As long as it's
I hear
legal
you. Right, right.
and
Yeah, it's gotta
moral
be
and
legal.
morally sound, I'm
Right,
gonna go get it.
right. It's got to be that way. But of course, you mentioned all the things that you do, and you kind of mentioned your path and kind of how you got into, first got piqued your interest in terms of watching your mom. So, and you kind of mentioned a little bit, kind of your first serious gig, Pickler, and was it What's the name of the show again?
Pickler and Ben. It was a
Pickler and
talk show
Ben.
that was based out of Nashville, and
I'm about to
I
butcher
was
that
as an
name. Thank
assistant.
you.
It's all right. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
it.
you mentioned a few of those things, as well as how when you dove into it, kind of, that one moment. But one thing I want to ask is, when was that? This is where I'm supposed to be moment. When was that moment for you when it came to, designing clothes and dressing people and basically doing closet and clothes overhauls for them? When you know it was it?
I think it that moment happens over and over, right? Because there are some
Okay.
times where I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this, just like I open a physical store and then that just went awry within 6 months, and then I'm like, okay, well, maybe that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. But I think that just God gives me these nods that lets me know that I'm on the right track. So Charmin Bates is a good friend of mine, and most people in Nashville didn't know I knew how to sew. So people, even when they knew that I had a store, they didn't know that my background, because I'm not from here, right? So
Mhm.
they knew that I had a store, but didn't know that I actually knew how to sew. And so the first time she ever did her Creative Girls Rock sneaker ball, she said, Kim, I want you to create some garments for this, and we're gonna auction them off. And I hadn't sewn in probably 5-7 years. Literally had not. I had to buy a
Mhm.
new machine to even make the clothes. And the reception and people who I've known, I've been in Nashville 15 years, and people who I've known this whole time who didn't know that I knew how to sew. And they saw those garments come out and they were like, ma'am, what are you doing? Like, you know how to do this whole time and you haven't said nothing? And I was like, oh yeah. Because people knew me as the party promoter, party planner, and then the
Mhm.
girl with this boutique. But people didn't know that I had this whole background in costume design. And I think it was so well received, and it has been so well received, that it's just that confident affirmation that it's the right step. Being on Local on 2 Live and doing the makeover shows and just
Mhm.
using that as an opportunity to uplift and inspire, women, professional women, mommies who, don't feel like they have, have it as much and don't have time to do their hair and their makeup and all of that, and just getting them dressed up and pouring into them. That has just become such a big passion of mine. But that opportunity, one, came from relationship. And then when they kept saying I could come back, I was like, I must be good. Because why do they keep
Right.
letting me come back on this show if I'm trash? And so it's those small, still when they say, God will speak to you in a whisper, and I feel like those are the whispers sometimes for me is, when I take a step out of faith and I try it and it works, and I'm like, okay, let's keep rolling.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, you've given a bit of advice, but we're gonna, kind of focus a whole segment on hurdles and advice. But of course, we got to pay some bills around here, so we're gonna take a quick commercial break on this one more.
Okay.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on This Woman Works. And before the commercial break, we mentioned, hurdles and advice. We talked a little bit about that. I would say, I'm sorry, Kimberly talked a little bit about that. I listened and soaked in the information. But, definitely want to get into that, for those that may be wanting to, aspire to do some of the things that you're doing. But what was one of the biggest hurdles you've had along your journey into all the things that you do?
I would say two things.
Mhm.
One, time, because um,
Lord knows I know that one. But go
it's a
ahead.
lot on my plate, and so it's a sacrifice, and so I miss things that I don't want to miss. Family at gatherings and my god kids, some very important moments for them. I'm not always there, which is hard. But then I would say the second thing, well, twofold, because on the event planning side, it's really been like discrimination in Nashville and like working with venues who, the moment they find out that you're a Black event designer or that you have an event that is catered to people of color, they'll cancel your event or they'll give you a quote of an astronomical amount of money just so you can't afford to use the spaces, and just overcoming them and like building confidence that like everybody is not going to come and shoot your venue up. It has become very frustrating, and especially in a place where tourism is at an all-time high, but the amount of people of color who work in tourism and who curate events for people around Nashville, the amount of money that we make compared to what everyone else is making is minimal. It's comical in a sense. So that, I would say, has been the biggest hurdle from an event planning perspective. From a boutique and owner perspective, it has been social media, like understanding how people leverage social media to drive sales has probably been one of the biggest Achilles heels that I've had to face. And trying to find like social media managers, and I've had, I don't know, probably about 6 of them at this point. um and still being a small Black owned business with not a huge budget to be able to pay for that. And so having to learn how to do Canva myself and CapCut myself, and how to learn how to record content by yourself, and hope that it look right, and it's not as good as you want it to be, and trying to find grace within, and just not beating myself up when it is not exactly how I want it, because you've got to be a little bit crazy and a little bit of a perfectionist to juggle all this stuff and to take it on and to believe that you can do it. You got to be a little off. And so when it comes to that, um
I
when
agree. I agree because I'm probably a little off myself. But go ahead.
you got to be a little different. But then when it works and it works well, it's beautiful. But with the moments when it doesn't work, it's like, what do you do? And I tell you what you do it again, and you do it again,
Hmm.
and you do it again, and you do it again. And it only takes the one time. It only takes the one time for it to work and for it to catch on, or for it to, the right people to see it, or the right people to remember you. I haven't done Pickler and Den. That's been before the pandemic. I think 2018, 2019. Those group of producers called me and asked me to do a show this year in Vegas, and it was a huge production. That's why you keep doing it. So for every hurdle, for every mountain you brought me over, when you for everyone, it's like it goes back to what we're talking about, that nod,
Hmm.
that you're doing the right thing, so you just got to keep going. hmm
Okay. All
it hasn't
right.
been
So,
easy.
um, what's that?
I said, but it hasn't been easy. Yeah.
Oh, I totally understand. I totally understand. So, what's the best bit of advice? I know you gave a little bits of advice in the last segment, but what's the best bit of advice anyone has ever given you over your journey?
Just start. Just do it.
Hmm.
Just do it. Because you I'm a project manager, right? By trade,
Mhm.
that's what I do every day. So my natural brain is to have it all planned out and for it to be perfectly executed. And it
Mhm.
just doesn't always work like that. Matter of fact, 90% of the time it doesn't work perfectly, but it still will work and it still will be fine. And people don't look at it like you look at it. I will see the one piece of hair that's out of place right here. No one else saw that. No one else
Mhm.
saw at the event that, I don't know, the balloons didn't drop at the exact right time. They were just in the moment. And so you have to give yourself space and grace for it not to be perfect, but it to
Mhm.
be real good. So I'm learning to let it be real good, because if you don't, you will get so stagnant and you won't do it. So you got to just start, and however it come out is how it come out. And in time you'll get better, and you'll get resources in place that'll help it get better and better and better. You get more efficient with your processes, but you got to start, and you got to give
Mhm.
yourself grace if it's not perfect, and keep doing it over and over again.
That's right. That's right. So, you have given a little bit of advice also for people that may be following in your path as well. Did you have any more bits of advice for anyone that may be following your path and have thoughts on maybe doing all the multiple different things that you do?
Pick one. If you know I believe, and someone said this to me, like that you're supposed to die empty, meaning the gifts that God has given you, you release them all back to the world. And when they told me that, I think I just took it too literally. Like, why can't you need to spread some of this out, right? Like, you are multifaceted, hyphenated, but we don't have to do all of it at the same time. But no, but in all seriousness, if you want to go into a career in fashion, it's a lot different than when I started. When I started, most people went to school. You had to have a degree for it, or you had to work in retail. It was all of these hurdles and barriers to entry. We didn't have social media. This is again in the 90s. And I'm aging myself, but I'm from the 1900s, so whatever. And so, but
I am
but
too, so it's
now.
okay. There will be no age talk. There will be no hating on experienced veterans of life on this show.
I love
Go
it. I
ahead. Go
love
ahead.
it. But now you can get directly to the consumer so much faster. So you don't need, Macy's or somebody like that to hire you in order for you to be
Mhm.
to start learning retail or to be a stylist. You don't need to go and work for what you can literally get some of your friends, start styling them, post it on social media, build a brand around it, or be a styling influencer if you really have it. Now, if you got it, because it's a lot of levels to that. But
Mhm.
you can start much easier. You don't need as much money to start. You know, there are more resources that are available to you that tell you how to start. Like for me, I didn't know when I first started being a stylist, I didn't know how to get the clothes. I'm like, how do people get these clothes? I don't know. Not knowing that they buy the clothes and take them back, or you rent the clothes. I didn't know. And so
Mhm.
all of that information is available to you now, whether you have a degree or not. YouTube University teach you all kind of stuff you know
Mhm.
and so there is really no excuse to not become a subject matter expert in the area that you are interested in, because literally if you just take the time, you can find the information. I am still a fan of formal education. I think,
Mhm.
one, we talked about relationships that you gain from doing it that way, but also the experience that you get. I think it's priceless. But if you're one of those people where you like, I absolutely do not want to do this, but I have a gift for a thing, because God will do that. He will give you a gift for a thing. Then you just know
Mhm.
how to do it. I just know how to do hair. I can just do it. I just know how to build stuff. I can just do it. I'm not a carpenter. I just know how to do it. And so those things do exist within you. You just have to learn what your gifts are. So that is also probably my next point as far as advice is like think about the things that you naturally can do or have always been able to do. I have always been creative. I didn't know what it was, but I've always been this way. I've always put on little events where I was inviting people over, even if it was a little house party, I was going to gather some people. I've always been that way. And, so naturally, my dad would tell me as a kid, your gift is in your hands. So naturally, I was drawn to anything that allowed me to use my hands and, that type of thing. And so I would just encourage people to think about that. Like a lot of times we want to do what everybody else is doing, but you got to do what you're called to do, what you're created to do. More important than anything, you got to do what you are created to do. And when you can slow down and take a step back and understand that, that's really what's going to propel you forward. People see these celebrities, and there are some people who are manufactured and they just got it out the mud. But there are also a lot of people who are really walking in their purpose, what they were created to do. And so you just have to figure that out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Definitely some wise words spoken for sure. Well, hopefully in this next segment, there will be some wise words and some laughs as well. We're going to end the show with a speed round. I've got 10 random questions for you. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
What's your favorite movie?
The Color Purple. You told Hoppo to beat me.
Oh Lord, I still
And the
remember
original, not the musical, The Color Purple,
yeah.
the movie. And I liked the musical. It was great. Shout out to Fantasia. But it's something about the synergy between Oprah, Whoopi Goldberg, and Danny Glover that it's legendary. I mean, you can't even name a movie that's like that. It just don't even exist. That's a period piece that's dealing with what it was dealing with at the time. It was ahead of its time. It's my favorite movie.
Okay. All right. Favorite song in rotation right now?
Ooh. So people probably aren't gonna so I have two.
Okay.
Because
hold on. We gotta look to the judges. Okay, yeah, we're gonna let you slide with two.
Because there's a duality to my personality. So so it's Angel by Anita Baker.
Ah, yes, classic.
And then it's All There by Jeezy.
Ah, yeah, definitely. Look, I still remember when Jeezy first came out, and I wore that first album out.
Man, listen, I'm
out.
telling you. If I'm out, I've been party promote for a long time. Even the DJs know if they put on Dope Boy 95 Air Max Zone, they know. If Slim Kim is in the building, it's going up. Like that is one of my favorite songs of all time. I'm a Jeezy super fan. If anybody knows Jeezy, please tell him that I love him. Thank you. Amen.
All right. Now, one thing I will say about Jeezy, love Jeezy, but I'm still trying to figure out what's going on in that like tequila commercial where he was doing all that dancing. I was like, okay, what happened here? I don't know what happened there,
he has made a couple special decisions post pandemic. It was I blame it on the pandemic. It was the pandemic's fault.
All right, we're gonna let it ride with him on that one.
He started tapping into that other side, so sometimes you gotta bring yourself on back, Jesus.
Best childhood memory.
Spending time with my family, like traveling between Gary, Chicago, Detroit, rural Tennessee, Jackson, McKenzie, just being in the backwoods of Tennessee with my cousins, like walking dirt roads and just being rough kids. We was rough kids. So it was great. I love growing up.
Okay. Yeah, I went to college out in West Tennessee, actually UT Martin. So
my cousin went to UT. So when I was like 16, we used to go and like party at UT.
Probably went to the parties. Yeah, you probably went to the parties.
Yeah, we were there. We were there because my cousins were in McKenzie and Paris and Henry, Tennessee. And so we would sneak up to UT.
Oh, Paris over there by Land Between the Lakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
So you
that.
know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
I know where Mackenzie is. That was where Bethel was right
Yeah,
there. Yeah, I
Bethel.
remember all that. Mm-hmm. Yep. And they used to come to Martin to party because they were like, "Hey, it's boring out here." So,
It was nothing, and it was a dry county back then too, so you couldn't even get liquor.
oh, it was a dry county in Martin too, but you had to drive. But
Oh,
we were 10 minutes. But we were 10 minutes from the border. That's what
okay.
it
I was like,
was. You
I
could go
don't
right across
remember
the border and
having.
grab it and bring it
Okay.
back.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite vacation spot.
Dang. Okay. I'm gonna say Mexico because I go there the
Mhm,
most frequently, and
mhm.
that's like my home away from home. But the best place I've ever been is Rome.
Okay. All right. Um, Worst movie you ever watched.
Ooh, probably something from the '80s, like Ducktales or something.
I'm surprised you didn't throw like Howard the Duck in there or something of
Uh,
that nature.
I actually liked Howard the Duck.
Well, I like that movie too, but I'm just saying, plenty of people would say it was so horrible. But I was like, I didn't see what was so bad about it.
I liked Howard the Duck, and it was kind of scary in a way. Like it was a little scary that the man with the face. It was kind of scary.
A little duck
I
running
wanted to
around.
do a
It's funny.
whole event series on like 80s movies because they were so
Hmm.
creative, like Spaceballs and Mannequin and Big, and
Yeah.
there were some really good movies out that came out. Harry and the Hendersons.
Hmm.
I love
I
during
still
the
want to be.
holidays. Say that
I
again.
still. I still probably forever still want to be two people. Well, one person. I'm sorry. I wanted to be in the '80s, and I really wanted to be that to be my profession at one point. I wanted to be Turbo, like really, really bad for breaking. I
Okay.
wanted to break. I wanted to be Turbo like the most, but
Did you know how to
nah.
break dance, friend?
I could dance as a kid, but as I
Okay,
got
okay.
older, I got more focused into like playing football and basketball and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And I really didn't dance quite as much. So when I got back into trying to dance, I'm like, yeah, I ain't got them type of moves no more. Them days are
That's all
over.
right. That's okay.
So, but
There's hope.
let's see. Yeah, a little bit. Um, One person you'd like to sit down with, dead or alive, eat dinner and pick their brain.
I would say my grandmother, my mother's mother,
Okay.
because she died at 42.
Hmm.
And she had like 9 kids. And I'm just so curious I wish I knew her, because everyone says that we look just like, and I wish that I would have had the opportunity to meet her and to just know what her personality was like. I think it's also cool when people have like grandparents and they're older. Most of my grandparents were deceased by the time I became like old enough to know. And so or became, well, by eight I had no grandparents, but like my grandmothers all died, they both died before I was born. And so I would really love to know my grandmothers. That would be really, really cool.
Okay. All right. Favorite restaurant?
um well, in Nashville or otherwise.
Wherever. Wherever your heart desires.
Okay, well, if I'm at home, I love going to the hood chicken spots, but I don't eat chicken. So like chicken and fish, like Harold's chicken and fish, Shark's
Hmm.
chicken and fish, JJ's chicken and fish, with the mild sauce and the lemon pepper. So that is
Okay.
the less bougie version of me. But but in Nashville, my favorite restaurant to go to is the River House, which is, it's just elevated. The staff is amazing. They're so nice, and so I like hanging out in there.
Yeah, I don't even think I got a favorite restaurant. I just like eating food. But that's
Yeah.
just me. But but
Now I will serve some tacos. Now, if you want to take me, men, if you're interested in taking me out on a date, you can always get me with a taco. Because I love Mexican food. So my favorite cuisine is definitely Mexican.
there we go. There we go. Now, your favorite artist.
Jeezy and Anita Baker, duh. I already told you.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Well, my bad. Let me I should have
Listen,
skipped
you
over
see
that
how
one.
that Jeezy started that, started coming out.
All right. Now, this one right here is always a fun question. It's the last question too.
Okay.
Who would play you in a biopic?
So my best friend who passed away, Cherie, was a
Mm-hmm.
television producer as well, and she always she worked talk shows like Steve Harvey. So she met a lot of celebrities, and she said that Tasha, I think her last name is Smith, that played on the
Mm-hmm.
game,
Mm-hmm.
reminded her so
Tasha
much of
Mack.
me. And I'm
Yeah, Tasha Mack.
Tasha Mack. Yeah. So Tasha
Yes.
Mack from the game, that personality, not Wendy Raquel is her name.
Mm-hmm.
She said that if that we were so much alike, it was uncanny. So I've never met Wendy Raquel, but I would say Wendy Raquel, shout out to you, because apparently we have similar personalities. So
I could see the kind of the look as well because I could see that kind of as well. So yeah, Wendy Raquel. I still remember her on the Steve Harvey show as
She's been
well
around
as
for a long time.
yes, yes.
And
And
if
what's
you
the other
watch
movie?
Papa, she's on Papa's House right now. So
Mm-hmm.
Damon Wayans Jr.
Mm-hmm.
and Senior have their own show, which is a
Mm-hmm.
very good show, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And she plays his ex-wife, and she is just as fabulous and extra
Mm-hmm.
as you ever want to be.
Yeah, I saw her recently in a movie. I don't know. This is like some kind of like B movie, which people consider a B movie. But anyway, it's like Marcus Houston. They were playing him. It was playing his mom in the
Mm,
movie. It was on BET. I was watching it one day. But
okay.
yeah, played his mom, and I think I can't remember who played his. Clifton Powell played his dad.
Oh, okay.
Now that them two together as a
Now I'm
couple
sure that
was
was a lot going
highly
on.
funny. That was highly funny. I was cracking up laughing at them. I was like,
Shout out
"Nah,
to
you can't
Clifton
do that,
Powell, because Clifton Powell gonna find himself in a movie every time.
man."
He
Yep,
gonna
he
keep a
sure
check.
is. Yep, I still remember it. My favorite role of his is him playing a role is Pinky by far. By far,
Uh,
that is the best
yeah,
role.
yeah. I guess if I had to
Shoot.
pick somebody that was younger, because I guess she is older than me, I would have to say maybe Glorilla. She's like the only young girl that I like out of these young girls. I like Glow.
Mhm.
Yeah, Glow, but we would have to work on
Yeah,
her diction.
yeah. She's definitely gonna
She
bring
Memphis.
Memphis everywhere she goes. Everywhere she goes. Yes, love some Glorilla. Of course, you know that before Glorilla there was of course Gangsta Boo. You know, rest
Oh
in peace.
yeah.
And then
Rest in
of course there
peace.
was
Come on,
LeChat.
man.
There was LeChat too.
Oh, I don't
Okay,
know the
yeah.
chat. See.
Yeah, LeChat was actually with 3 6 Mafia after Gangsta Boo left. So she was actually
Hmm.
I got a funny story I'll mention then we'll end the show. But um one time we knew that LeChat when I was in college, this is going back to college. That went to Dyersburg, we knew that LeChat was going to be at a club, right? Up there.
Okay.
So we went up there. We found out is I played football in college, so we took
Mm.
a random trip as an all season. We took a random trip up there, packed up in our cars, rolled out up there. We get there, we find out it costs a little much to get in.
Mm.
So we're like, how can we get in? Well, we see LeChat and her crew pulling up. So what do all of us do? We act like we are members
Yeah,
of
with
LeChat's crew. So we get in there, LeChat in the club, 3 6 Mafia, 3 6 Mafia. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We doing all that, getting like hype and just being crazy. And sure, all of us got in free.
no
Literally.
way.
Yeah, all of us got in free.
See,
So yeah.
that's how you work it, okay?
Lord, I got so many crazy stories about college, but that is another show for another day. But this show is This Woman Works, episode 40. Kimberly Adams, thank you for coming on this show.
Thank
I want you to
you.
tell everyone where they can find you on social media, your website, all the things you're working on. We got time. We got time today. Go
Okay.
ahead and tell everybody.
So you can find me on Instagram at the Kimberly Adams. The Kimberly Adams. My website is shopslimpickings.com. If you want to get some amazing women's clothing or book a styling session. If you want to tap into the bar crawl on March 22nd, we host Nashville's Black Bar Crawl. This is our 6th event and 3rd annual St. Patty's Day Bar Crawl. We're taking folks to 5 venues across the city. It's 7 hours of just party bus hopping, turning up. All your favorite DJs are tapped in. It is going to be an absolute great time. So please, you can get tickets at blackbarcrawlnashville.com. And if you're interested in our spatial design services or event planning services, you can find the name of my company is Immersive Events, and you can find us at beimmerse.co on the interwebs.
Wow, I made some notes there. You said the Black Bar Crawl. Okay, I'm gonna make some
Yes,
notes
you
there
should
because
tap
my
in.
birthday is March 24th, so
Oh, well, you
right
coming?
around
You
the birthday
coming?
time.
I'll send you a ticket. I'll send you a ticket. You gotta come. But you gotta be ready. You have to hydrate because it's a
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I've heard on the bar crawls that you definitely have to drink a lot of water before, and
Yeah.
not a lot of drinks, a lot of water
Well, we,
beforehand.
we give hydration packets out. I mean, we are very safe. We start with brunch, so we
Mhm.
feed you in the beginning. We give you hydration packets and water. So we do all the right things, and we have security if anybody want to act a little crazy. We make sure everybody feels safe, and we do it well. And the best way to go is to actually take the party bus. We have probably 10 tickets left for the party bus, but that way you don't have to worry about driving or anything like that.
Okay, noted. I'll see what my schedule entails. Hey.
Yes. Come
All
on.
right, but of course, I am the host of the show. My name is Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Yes, I will not be calling it X because the only X I recognize is DMX and Malcolm X. That is it.
That's right.
Um, so you will find me on there at Mike Patton 82. Again, that's MikePaton 82. You can also find me on Blue Sky as well, same moniker. Now, you can also find me on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. This Woman Works is on all platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it. We are there. And you can also find This Woman Works on the Mike Patton Network on YouTube, where you can find all of the episodes, all 40 episodes, including, of course, this episode as well. I thank you all for tuning in to this episode of This Woman Works with your host, Mike Patton, my guest, Kimberly Adams. We're out. Peace.